Yeah, Trixie. Trixie. Good girl. Oh, holding you in my lap. You're too big. Oh, I almost forgot, Bob. What is wrong with you? But figured, and Angela reminded me. She said, "Did you make your mom a video?" And I said, "No, I forgot." Anyway, one of the stories that I didn't write about, Trixie, God, that I wanted to write about, well, a lot of them. But I don't think you were there, or you might have been there, but you didn't actually get to witness it. Because it was just me and Dad and Bill Powell and Chuck Kidd. But, of course, my parents know I had this dog, Ishi. You've heard me talk about it before. Tell stories about him. Just an absolute phenomenal dog. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be another dog like Ishi. You know, that's part of the reason I'm so upset about losing Clovis, because I'm trying to keep that bloodline going, because it was, I mean, even if you're 50% Ishi or 20, I mean, if you got any Ishi in you, you're going to be a good dog. That dog was amazing. I mean, he really did understand. He really could talk. But we were at the Bayvon. Right after one of those, I don't know, if it was a northeaster or a tornado or hurricane, whatever the hell, something came through there. Just basically destroyed the place. We were there trying to fix stuff on the cottage, I guess. I can't remember exactly what was going on. Anytime I was there, I was working. So, I heard Ishi just raising holy hell outside. What the hell's he got now? He wasn't running. He was just, he was treeing. And I went outside and I could hear him. I could hear his bell shining the light all around. I can't find him. And I couldn't find him because that damn dog had climbed a pine tree and was at least 25 feet in the air. One of those, all those pine trees, I guess when the tornado or hurricane came, you know, they all sort of lean in one direction. And this particular pine tree had, you know, it was still standing, but it was leaning up against a holly tree. And he somehow got up on that root ball, and then he shimmied his way up this pine tree chasing this possum. And the possum was out on the end of a limb, and he was steadily going up that tree. I mean, it was I can still see it now. I mean, he was hugging that tree, barking, but steadily going up it. And he finally got up in the fork of the tree, and a possum was out on the end of the limb. And he started going out that limb after, and I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna lose my damn dog from falling out of a tree and break his back. You know, Bill Powell and my dad, they all came out there. They all got to witness it. This is not a lie. This is a true story. That dog climbed that tree. And I ran to my truck because I was going to try and shoot the possum before it got too far out where Ishi would fall. By the time I got back, the possum had gotten from the pine tree into the holly tree. And Ishi got out of the little crux in the top of the pine tree and was going out on that limb. I knew he was going to, it's just no way he could get there. But he was going after that possum. So I figured if I could just shoot the possum, he'd stop. And then I'd figure out a way to get him out of the damn tree. So I shined the light up there. Shot the possum, boom, dead. Hit the ground. As soon as that thing hit the ground, Ishi said, screw it, he jumped after it. He just bailed the hell out of that tree like he could fly or something. Avon back then, it's 4 foot of nothing but greenbrier and poison ivy, and the whole ground canopy is almost impenetrable. I shoot the possum. Possum hits the ground. Ishi sees the possum hit the ground. He jumps out of the tree. Boom. Dead silent. Dead. Broke his neck. Whatever. It wasn't a sound for, I'd say, 7 or 8 seconds. And then you hear the jingle bell. Jingle, 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 jingle. I was like, oh, holy shit. Jingle, jingle, jingle. And here comes Ishi out of this 4 foot thicket of shit with that possum in his mouth, wagging his tail, happy as he could be. That dog absolutely hated a possum. I don't know what it was. He killed more possums than you could shake a stick at. But I wish I had a video. I know people don't believe it, but that tree, it wasn't standing straight up like this. But it wasn't leaning too far either. But it was leaning just far enough to where he could hug it and get up that tree. And those trees, they're not bushy. They don't have any limbs. It's basically trunk till you get to the top. Oh, he was just a psycho dog. He went up that damn thing and got that little fork. But he was amazing. And he's the only dog that I know of, or that I've heard of, that would actually catch a deer. We got some dumb people in our state. You pull around this blind corner at the side of my house, and there's a little spot there where you can supposedly stop, but they don't realize everybody else and their brother coming around and hit them square in the ass. But Ishi would catch deer. And the first one he caught, we were in Buckingham. We all had radios. We could hear, you could hear the chase, and you could hear Ishi. But then, when you recognize his voice the way I did, and it started getting really weird and choppy and inconsistent. I was like, what the hell? Something's going on. And I was getting a bit worried. I called guys on the radio and I said, y'all need to go find out what's wrong with Ishi. So I said, that sounds like he's fighting him or something. And one of my buddies, Sean, he went out there where the chase was going on. Sure as hell, Ishi had ran a doe. No, it was a little, I think it was a little buck, a little 4-pointer or something, into this farm pond. And they were just going around and around and around, and every time the deer would try and get out, Ishi would jump up on the bank and run it back in. So Sean calls me and tells me, you know, Ishi's got a deer in the pond. I said, well, shoot it. He said, I can't. He said, the dog keeps swimming up and climbing on the deer's back, and then they both go under. I said, well, do something. I said, I don't want my dog to drown. So there was a little John boat there. They get in the John boat and run the John boat between Ishi and the deer. Ishi didn't like that shit. So they shot the deer. Ishi jumps up in the boat and then jumps out of the boat on top of the deer, and the whole thing started all over again. I always try to figure out his strategy. I mean, he could run all day for at least 3 days. And when he was 4 or 5 years old, when he started actually catching these deer, I mean, I think it was pretty smart on his part, because I mean, he could run these deer, he could get close to them. It always seemed to me like he would chase them into an area where he could even get more traction. Like he'd chase them into water, he'd chase them into thickets. You know, he wasn't out trying to have a foot race in the middle of a pasture. And I guess when, you know, like I said, he knew the land, and he knew where the deer were, he knew what was going on. He could cut them off at the pass and force them into an area that he wanted to, you know, if we didn't shoot it first, eventually he'd run that thing down and catch it. We caught one day. This was probably a yearling, maybe 2-year-old doe. Wasn't real big, probably 80, 90 pounds. But I told her, I said, he caught that deer. I said, he's got it. Because, you know, as I said, you got to know his voice. And once the chase goes from running to where it sounds like he's treeing, typically a coon dog or something, they jump up, they hug the tree, and they go, oh, 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 oh. And that's what he was doing. But I knew he wasn't treeing a coon. He was in the middle of a cutover. I said, he caught it. They got that deer. And we all walked up there. And sure as hell, he had this little 90-pound doe. And he was nose to nose for that thing. Oh, 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 oh. That you know, that doe would take a couple steps this way, he'd jump right back in front of it. This way, he'd jump back in front of it, and just would not let that doe get a path out of that cutover, that briar patch or whatever. And he'd finally run in and try and, weirdly, it was like he'd try and, it's almost like he'd try and take your legs out from under him. Anyway, so we shot that one. And he caught another one. This is when he was older. Probably a couple of years before I finally had to put him down. Same thing. He'd run them in the cutoff, run them till they get tired, just start frothing at the mouth. You know, you'd see him come by and deer's mouth was wide open. He's just running the piss out of him. And he ran this doe. was a Mary Elizabeth Hicks hunt, and he ran this doe down into this feeder creek that fed the Appomattox River, and he caught it. I mean, he caught it this time. I mean, he had it in his mouth, climbing all over it, trying to drown it. The deer's trying to drown him, and I'm on the radio screaming bloody murder. They got the deer. He's got the deer. Somebody go down there and kill the deer. He's got it. Nobody really doing shit at the time. And finally, Lewis Walker, I guess he heard me, or I guess by then they finally listened to me when I tell them they caught the deer. But he went down there. He said he couldn't shoot the deer because Ishi was all over that deer in the middle of this creek. And I'm just begging him. I'm like, dude, man, he's too old for this shit. I said, somebody get in there and kill that deer. So he jumps in the creek, gets in the the fray. And it's not fun being between a dog like Ishi and a deer fighting for their life. So I do applaud Lewis for that. But he said he had the dullest knife ever created. And he was in there trying to cut that deer's throat, and Ishi was trying to chew the deer's throat, and knives, water, and chaos. And I guess sooner or later he finally got a good stab in there. Killed that deer. Nobody ever fired a shot. Ishi caught it and killed it with a knife. Same place, Mary Elizabeth Hicks. Me and Billy Schuler were hunting one day. And I mean, this one spot, these deer, they did the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it's talking about the path of least resistance, and So I even wrote a story about it. The one that covered the damn river. I think I bawled the whole way through the story. But because I knew what the deer were going to do, and Ishi knew what the deer was going to do, I finally convinced Billy Schuler. I said, look, these deer are going to jump right here when I drop the tailgate. They're going to run this creek bed straight down the Appomattox River, across the river, and my dogs are going to be gone. I said, will you please hike your ass down there and shoot that deer? He said, no problem. Drop the gate. Each jumps out, hits, runs like a bat out of hell straight to the Appomattox River. I think one or two shots. I hear Ishi keep on going. I'm like, ah, damn it. And then I hear that same chopped up, broken up cadence. And I called Billy. He said he shot one, but you didn't kill it. It got by him. And I said, well, it sounds to me like Ishi's got it. He said, let me call you back. So Billy, he's running down the creek, and he calls me back. He said, Kevin, you got to get down here. I was like, what's wrong? He said, Ishi's chasing a deer up and down the river. They're both in the river swimming. And I said, well, shoot the deer. And he's like, well, I don't want it to go floating down the river. I said, well, I don't want my dog to drown either. So just shoot the deer and we'll figure out how to get it. So I guess about that time, the deer's getting on the Prince Edward side of the river. And Billy takes that opportunity and he shoots the deer dead. Well, Ishi comes up to the deer and grabs the deer by the neck and starts to bring this deer back across the river. I was like, I was hunting with all these duck hunters, and they're all proud about their dogs retrieving ducks in the water, and I was like, y'all ain't seen shit. I said, I got a dog that will drag a deer across the river. And he did. And he got to the bottom of that riverbank, and it was steep. I forget who, me and Billy, and it might have been Lewis, I can't remember. But we made a human chain, and we pulled over. There was a dogwood tree that we were hanging on to. Billy got down to the water's edge. Ishi he had the deer. He was still, he's got the deer in his mouth. He's trying to breathe. He's trying to swim. He's trying to get up. And we made this human chain off this dogwood tree. And Billy got Ishi by the collar and pulled the deer and the dog up this human chain out of the Appomattox River. And that was another one he caught. He caught one. He caught one that caught him. I was worried to death. He always come back. Always a very predictable dog, and he wasn't coming back. And I kept getting a signal. We had the tracking collars, and I kept getting a signal on him, but it wasn't moving very fast. And he was getting older. I was, he's just, he's old, and I figured, well, he's slower. And anyway, eventually I got worried enough that I went in after him. Found him down there in the woods, and he was struggling. He wasn't doing too well, and I checked him out and looked him over, and he had a hole in his rib cage. I don't know, probably the third or fourth rib from the bottom. And I thought somebody shot him. Not a happy camper. Scooped him up. Called Billy. Billy had a connection with a vet in town, which he was closed. But, he had a friendship with this guy. I took Ishi there. Actually, Billy's wife, April, I didn't know where I was going, so she helped me find a place, and we went there. I thought for sure somebody shot him. They did the x-rays and everything, and it wasn't. He had caught a buck, and that buck, at some point in their fight, horned him in the ribs. Damn near took out a lung. But he made it again. He hit one deer one time. I was making a drive, as usual. And, you can tell by his tail and everything. I mean, you can get the sense when something's getting ready to happen. I was like, all right, we're getting ready to jump something. He hadn't even really started giving any voice, any mouth. But I could tell by his body language he was getting ready to get up on something. And I mean, there were these two bucks. They were right beside me. I mean, they couldn't have been 15, 20 yards. So they were just squatting, hoping I'd walk past them. And Ishi had ran over the track 2 or 3 times, and I could tell. And I said, "Oh, something's going to happen." And when it did happen, when he finally gave a little mouth, those 2 deer jumped up. And it was almost like one of those Western hip shots. I mean, I just threw the gun up kind of halfway, and boom, and I rolled one up in a knot. And the other one, I think I finally got the gun to my shoulder and I shot. I led it a little bit too much and I broke his front leg. And that thing flipped, crashed, and burned, and it got up and started to go again. And that dog came out of nowhere. I mean, it's kind of like something you'd see on National Geographic or whatever. I mean, you take I guess a 80-pound dog, full speed, and this deer's going down through the woods at a good clip, and he jumped. I got to see the whole thing. He jumped and he must have spanned 10 feet. And he hit that deer, mouth wide open, right in the back of the neck, right below the ears and below the horns, and rolled that thing up in a knot and just held him there until I could come over there and finish him off. Because, I mean, all that deer had was a broken leg. And they can go forever on a broken leg. It was amazing. I mean, it was probably a 140-pound, 3.5-year-old buck. And he was, let's just say he was a 70-pound, 10-year-old deer, or a 10-year-old dog. And he hit that thing perfect. And that deer didn't stand a China's chance. But he's gone now. Trying to keep that bloodline going. I thought Clovis would be the last one, because I don't know, it's a lot of aggravation. But I'm betting you can't even see me now. So at least I tried to give you a Sunday story. I'll talk to you later.